My concern, Charlie, is unless we reconcile ourselves with what the truth of the matter was that led to January 6th, that's really just going to be a friendly preview of what's to come in this country.
Some dark and foreshadowing statements from longshot Republican presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy. That was a statement that he gave while appearing on the Charlie Kirk show. And to a degree, he is correct. Now pause before I get to that. I do want to note that the Capitol riot was partially an explosion of some long simmering conservative grievances. I'll give you examples of those grievances in just a moment. But Ramaswamy does get something wrong, and I want to talk about that as well. Before we do though, here's more from his comments.
I think January 6th was the culmination of what you see when a culture censors people from speaking, when a government repeatedly tells people, and I'm talking about the administrative state here, not the elected government, tells people to shut up, sit down, and do as they're told. You were told that you had to take a vaccine when normally, and by the way, I've been in biotech, you have to take 10 years to develop a medicine for the public to believe that it's safe and effective. You can't even choose to take one that hasn't been through that. And yet here, something that went through the process in less than 1 year, you couldn't choose not to take it. On the eve of that election, the most damning story about one of the two candidates, Biden, his son, and being compromised financially by our enemies from Ukraine, from China in the case of an enemy, to Ukraine in the case of a corrupt actor, is had to be suppressed. You couldn't even send that on your social media accounts to individual people without being silenced.
So Cenk, he goes after the administrative state. He talks about COVID mandates, COVID vaccine mandates, which really for the most part impacted, some small businesses for a short period of time. Not small businesses, larger corporations for a small period of time, not smaller businesses. And some public employees also had to get vaccinated. So he's pointing to those issues as the main grievances that conservative voters are dealing with here, and that if you don't deal with those grievances, if you don't deal with those problems, then we're going to see another January 6th. That January 6th was just a little preview of what's to come. What are your thoughts on that?
He's doing two things wrong and one thing right. So when he says January 6th happened because of Hunter Biden's laptop, cuckoo. Like, are you serious? Why are you saying such silly things, right? So on the other hand, when he says they have massive grievances and that's why they couldn't take it anymore and it exploded into this, basically, he's not saying it's a riot, but it was definitely a riot and obviously they broke in. That part is correct. Now, are their grievances justified? Well, that breaks into two different categories. In my estimation, I think there were some people who thought, no, we're the white right-wingers, we always rule. And this isn't, that's not your America, it's my America. And I'm going to take it back. For them, the idea that someone that isn't on their side won is inconceivable. But there's also a giant group of them that have legitimate grievances. Is it like the Republican Trump grievances? No, it's just, this system sucks. It's crushed our wages, it's crushed our jobs, it's crushed our dignity. And it is because of the rampant corruption in government where corporations are just flat out allowed to buy almost every politician there is. And that has led to their wages and their jobs and their healthcare being crushed. And they're super mad, right? And so the system, including mainstream media, the Democrats and corporate Republicans try to bottle that up. No, you're not angry. The system is great. You're not angry. And that was, January 6th was partly them going, no, we're not gonna stay bottled up. We are angry and we're gonna go do this. Now the left wing doesn't do it because we have no sense of entitlement. But the right wing has a sense of entitlement, like this is my country. What do you mean, right? And when you add a grievance on top of that entitlement, January 6th happens. Now the second part he's wrong about is he seems to be kind of mildly encouraging it. Like, hey, and so, whoa, slow your roll there. It's not a positive thing that January 6th happened. Like I understand the reasons behind it. Some of them bad, some of them understandable, some of them horrible, right? But it's not a good thing. There's a much better way to address those grievances, which is to end the corruption in the first place. But he's not offering that solution. Trump's not offering that solution, and the Democrats aren't offering that solution. The solution is end private financing of elections so there are no more bribes. But they all like the bribes, including him.
And it is kind of interesting how the Republican voters are never listened to by the prominent figures in their own party, right? because he lists off all these things, like he's against the administrative state, the Hunter Biden's laptop, all of these little like fringe issues. And it seems like he's making a concerted effort to avoid actually listening to what the voters are saying. So why don't we go to the quotes of a specific January 6th rioter who is facing 6 years in prison because of her part in those riots. So I'm gonna skip ahead to Audrey Southard Rumsey. She's one of the Capitol rioters. She's gonna be in prison for 6 years because not only was she one of the rioters, she was caught on camera assaulting a Capitol police officer with a flagpole. Now, she gave a 15-minute rant in court. And what I thought was interesting about her rant, and look, let me be clear for people who can't really like take me taking someone I disagree with politically seriously, okay? It's gonna be okay. I don't agree with this person, but I think what she's saying here is very interesting and we should maybe consider her concerns. All right, so here's what she says in court. I have grievances since they don't listen to us at the polling place. They don't listen to us little people in the regular world. So Southard Rumsey criticized gas and grocery prices and said, quote, I'm terrified about what's happening in our country. Departing court, she declined requests for comment. Turning to reporters, she said, you are all effing liars. You should be ashamed of yourself. You're why we're in this mess. I just think it's interesting that the economic concerns that you hear from these rioters, from Trump supporters over and over and over again, just gets brushed to the side by Republican figures like Ramaswamy, as if like these statements don't exist, these concerns don't exist. And the only thing they're really concerned about is social media censorship and whatever fringe issue they want to put front and center in the political space.
Yeah, so I'm gonna say something controversial here that some on the left are gonna flip out over, but hold here as I get to it. So first of all, this woman, she's both incredibly right and incredibly wrong. She's right about all the things that Anna just said. Then you read more into it, and she beat one of the cops with a flagpole. She pushed someone else down, and she believes in full Trump MAGA lunacy. Right?
Yeah, I don't agree with any of that, and she should be serving time for what she did. I want to be clear.
Yeah, and she broke the law, and she participated in assault, let alone everything else. Okay, that's all true. Both things are true. Okay, now I'm gonna go to the MLK quote, so buckle up. A riot is the language of the unheard. This was a riot. So now, does that mean that the riot was justified? No. Does that mean people who broke the law shouldn't go to jail? No, they should go to jail. And I love that they're actually finally going after the conspirators of the entire scheme in the first place, people like Donald Trump, who came up with the fake elector scheme, okay?
And the fake electors themselves.
But it takes, and that's why Vivek is totally wrong about, it's Hunter Biden's laptop. People don't riot over a little thing that just happened. So when riots happened after George Floyd was killed, it was the language of the unheard, because it wasn't just about George Floyd. It was hundreds of years of police abusing black people in this country. And that's why that frustration mounts until it explodes, because no one will hear that. So what is the core of the Republican voters' anger that is not being heard? It is not conspiracies about the deep state and QAnon and all that stuff. Yeah, there's a whole heap of that within the right wing, no question about it. That's why I'm not in the right wing, and I would never be in the right wing as long as they have those ridiculous conspiracy theories, etc. But the core was, what did Trump win on in 2016? Drain the swamp. The Republican voters hate corruption, and that is a credit to them. But every time they talk about draining the swamp, mainstream media goes, there is no corruption. Every bill they're voting on, they're having a legitimate debate between honorable gentlemen. The money that they're receiving in bribes, campaign contributions, doesn't affect them at all. And then it gets angrier and angrier, and the pressure mounts and mounts until you have a riot like this. That is the language of the unheard. Because the people in Washington, corporate Democrats, corporate Republicans, and corporate media are all collectively gaslighting you and go, there is no problem. The system is great.
The status quo is fantastic.
The status quo is wonderful. And corporate and campaign contributions are not bribes. Well, it was bound to explode. It exploded in a very unproductive way, in a disastrous way. But there's a fundamental underlying reason, and we're ignoring it at our peril.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR, so those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.